Hey everybody, Bright Suns, and welcome to the second installment of the Canon Collector's Star Wars Canon Timeline Binge. In this video, we'll be checking out the Jedi Fallen Order Prequel comic series, Fallen Order Dark Temple. This series was written by Matthew Rosenberg, with art by Paolo Villanellia, published by Marvel Comics. I got my copy of this comic series on Comixology. I ended up buying each issue of this comic series as they originally came out, and I had intended to read these before my first playthrough of Fallen Order, but I never got around to it. So today will actually be the first time that I read all 5 issues of this comic series. And remember guys, if you're new to this channel, please go check out the explainer video to see how this review fits into the rest of my Canon Timeline Binge. As well, this video will be spoiler heavy, not just for this story, but for the majority of the Star Wars canon. You've been warned!
Outside of the final action-packed issue, each chapter in this story opens up around the same time period as Fallen Order, roughly 14 BBY, featuring one of the Empire's Inquisitors doing what they do best, hunting down Jedi. In the Fallen Order video game, we later come to know this Inquisitor as the Second Sister. In the first issue of this comic series, the Inquisitor lands on a planet called Antatho, a foggy forested planet home to a unique violet-colored snow during the middle of a firefight. A trooper informs the Inquisitor their enemy may be in possession of a lightsaber. The Inquisitor calls off the onslaught of blaster fire, hoping to deal with the enemy herself. We then see a blue lightsaber ignite as we jump to the past to find Padawan Cere Junda and her master, Eno Cordova. We find the pair on the planet Namil, attempting to settle a conflict between Trandoshans and Dupi monks. Cere's impulsive and explosive actions caused negotiations to begin poorly, while her master worked to calm the situation. Cordova had a particular interest in keeping negotiations peaceful, as he was interested in studying the ways of the monks due to his ever-growing interest of ancient cultures. After Cere antagonized the Trandoshans in defense of the monks, they soon admitted to stealing from the Trandoshans. Upon returning to Coruscant, Cere appeared in front of the Jedi Council, admitting to her failures. Master Cordova stood up for his Padawan learner, citing impulsiveness and following instincts as a trait revered by ancient Jedi texts. The Jedi forgave her shortcomings and soon assigned her and her master to a new mission, studying an ancient temple on the newly Republic planet Antatho, in conjunction with the Da Corporation, who had been given access to the temple by the planet's government. Upon arriving to Antatho, the two Jedi would soon learn that the temple was located on an area of the planet known as Phylar, an independent civilization who were not keen on planetary or galactic government intrusion. Cere, Cordova, and the Da Corporation set out to speak with the Phylari in hopes of gaining peaceful access to the temple. They quickly realized the peace talks were likely an ambush. In an effort to thwart their soon-be attackers, Cordova attempted to locate them with the Force, but soon realized the planet's strong Force connection was essentially causing an overload of Force presence, ultimately clouding their abilities. An explosion soon caught them off guard, causing the two to be separated, as we see a blaster strike Cere on the head, causing her to become unconscious. In issue 2, we pick back up with the Inquisitor, lunging toward an older woman holding a blue lightsaber. The two clash in battle as the Inquisitor disarms the woman, knocking her lightsaber to the ground. Just then, the woman pulled out a blaster from behind her back, firing at her assailant. The second sister, realizing the woman to not be an actual Jedi, but a Phylari freedom fighter, she questions her as to where she found the saber. The woman revealed she found the saber in a temple, but refused to give its location. The Inquisitor then drove her own saber into the woman, killing her and proceeding on her mission to locate this temple. Back on Antatho years earlier, young Cere Junda awakes in a prison cell, guarded by a droid named N3lo. With her lightsaber in close reach, Cere slices through the cell, making her escape, only to realize her captors had been friendly, using the cell as merely a safe resting place for the unconscious Padawan. Cere had been rescued by the Phylari people and taken back to their sovereign land. The Phylari explained to Seer they were a peaceful people, and that the attack the young Padawan had experienced were not the Phylari, but someone who set out to frame them. With heavy hearts, the Phylari also informed Seer that her master had been killed in the attack. Soon after, the same woman who had attacked the Inquisitor with a lightsaber years later, Nirali, brought Seer to the temple she had originally sought out to study with her master. There, the two surmised that the Da Corporation had planned the attacks to negate treaties made with the Phylari people, to allow them unrestricted access to the ancient temple. Seer, accompanied by droid N3lo, then sets out to Ontatho City, sneaking past Da security forces to contact the Jedi Order about the attacks and her master's passing. By creating a distraction, Seer was able to sneak past Da security forces into Ontatho's Parliament building, where she hoped to inform the Ontatho's government of the corporation's corrupt actions. By crawling through a ventilation system, Seer was able to overhear a Da Corporation chairman gain the support of the Ontatho government to invade the Phylari land. Seer then busted through a vent, interrupting the meeting taking place, accusing the chairman of the attacks. This angered the government officials, who then called for their security forces to detain her. Realizing the government were not willing to listen to reason, Seer ignited her lightsaber, attacking the security droids as she ran off to make her escape. Finding her way out of the building and still battling the Ontatho and Da security forces, Seer instructed N3lo to return to the Phylari and inform them of the imminent attack on their land. The next day, Seer would make her return to the Phylari to help their forces prepare for battle. Our story picks back up in issue number 3 of the comic series, where we continue with the Inquisitor's mission to locate the mysterious temple. A Phylari warrior, in an attempt to stop the Inquisitor's attack on their land, gets gunned down by 2 purge troopers. It's then the Inquisitor realizes the inhabitants must be protecting something nearby. Using the Force to clear debris, the Inquisitor then discovers a mysterious descending set of stairs. Flashing back to Ontatho years earlier, the invading Da Corporation stumbles upon Seer meditating outside the ancient Phylari temple. Seer invites the invaders to leave at once. To no avail, she ignites her saber and calls out to the Phylari to defend themselves, destroying only the droids while leaving the human officers unharmed. A battle ensues as Da forces are called to retreat. After the Da's retreat, the Phylari regroup and decide that they need to be smarter in their attacks, noting the seemingly endless resources of their attackers. As Seer urges the Phylari people to allow for Jedi Council involvement, an explosion goes off and we see the Ontatho security droids fire blasters at the unsuspecting citizens. The Phylari fighters defend their citizens, destroying the droids as they wait for more attackers. On the Ontatho-Phylar border, a Da Corporation commander informs the chairman of recent attacks, and that no humans were killed in battle. The chairman, impressed by Seer, commands his troops to rest as he figures out a plan for dealing with the Jedi. Just then, Seer attacks a Da loading dock, and the Phylari fighters proceed with a surprise attack on their forces. Seer instructs N3lo to slice in the Da's comms system as she proceeds to attack the chairman. Seer disarms the chairman of his blaster as he begins to try and de-escalate the situation verbally. Security droids come to the chairman's aid as Seer cuts through the machines, only to be halted by the blue lightsaber of her master, Eno Cordova. The two reunite after believing one another to be dead. The chairman explains that he had helped Cordova recover from his injuries while keeping his survival a secret in hopes that whoever had caused the original attacks would not return to finish what they had started. Cordova explains to his still untrusting Padawan that he has contacted the Jedi Council about what he had believed to be terroristic threats from the Phylari people. Seer informed her master of her involvement with the Phylari and escaped to return to their aid. 2 days later, on opposite sides, Seer and Cordova would lead a hopefully peaceful resolution on the Ontatho-Phylar border. After rising tensions, the two sides agreed to cool off and return to a peace discussion another day. The master and apprentice share a brief conversation where Cordova explains to Seer he does not expect the peace to last long, but hopefully long enough for him to study the temple at the center of this conflict. In issue number 4, we return to the Inquisitor descending the stairs she had recently uncovered. The stairs led her and her forces to a large cavernous room covered in ancient carvings filled with destruction. She then stumbles upon an unpowered and damaged N3LO, switching the droid back on. The droid then informs the Inquisitor of the cause of this destruction: the Jedi. Back during the time period of the Antotho-Phylari War, Master Cordova instructs his Padawan to stand guard as he enters the ancient Phylari temple to find out what the Daw Corporation is truly after and what the Phylar are dead set on protecting. Upon entering the temple, Cordova begins to examine ancient carvings on its walls. Booby traps begin to be set off, and unbeknownst to him, a large ancient droid powers on. Cere, becoming impatient, enters the temple to go after her master, only to encounter Daw and Antotho forces who had secretly entered the temple as well. Cere confronts the forces, but just then, the ancient droid begins to attack both parties. Cere attacks the droid and attempts to protect the surviving Daw soldiers. A Daw soldier refused to help her, continuing his attack on the Jedi, and flees further into the temple in hopes of escape. Cere chases after the soldier, deflecting his attacks while still trying to provide him aid. Almost trapped, Cordova comes to Cere's aid, as she informs him her attacker had called for aid to come to the temple, and they soon would arrive. Cordova instructs Cere to return to the temple's entrance to stop the soon-be attackers, as he returns to his study of the temple and its secrets. Soon after, the Daw chairman, aided by a large number of forces, arrive at the temple's entrance. The Phylari fighters meet them and begin to engage in battle. Nir Ali then instructed her freedom fighters to draw the Daw Corporation toward the temple as she ran inside. Inside, Nir Ali finds and incapacitates Eno Cordova while saying, "I'm sorry, old man, but I can't let anything get in our way now." In the fifth and final issue of this comic series, we return to the Antotho-Phylari battle. The Phylari freedom fighters continue to hold back the invading forces at the temple's entrance, as an impatient Cere begins to battle her way through the incoming forces, attempting to make her way to the Daw's command center. Busting through the ceiling of the command center, Cere confronts the chairman, making him an offer: halt your attacks and pursuit of the Phylari temple, and she would in turn gain him access into the Jedi library on Coruscant. To Cere's surprise, the chairman agrees and commands a ceasefire. The chairman then informs the Padawan that the Antotho government had officially renounced Phylar as a sovereign nation and that the Republic would soon arrive. He asks Cere to convince the Phylari to not destroy the temple and its secrets in the meantime. The chairman also revealed that Daw's Corporation had hired local Phylari forces to help with security. These were the individuals involved with starting this feud. As soon as the words left the chairman's mouth, he was struck down by the Phylari freedom fighters with a unique blaster fire unrecognizable to Daw forces. Cere pled with the Phylari to stop as a ceasefire had been ordered. Just then, a group of Jedi led by Mace Windu come to their aid, holding off the Phylari, as Cere, accompanied by Master Adu, rushes into the temple to rescue her master. The two enter the temple and find the incapacitated Jedi, helping him to his feet. The trio are then trapped inside a unique energy sphere, something the Phylari were attempting to hide from outsiders. Nir Ali revealed that she and the other freedom fighters had started this war in hopes of overthrowing the Antotho government and ultimately leaving the Republic, returning peace to the Phylari land. Outside the temple, the Phylari used those energy spheres to attack the Antotho, Daw, and Republic forces. Inside the temple, more ancient droids begin to attack the three Jedi as they try to make their escape. As the Jedi reach the temple's entrance, Republic forces bomb the temple, hitting some of the energy spheres inside, causing a massive explosion to be set off, destroying the temple, as well as beginning a chain reaction large enough to destroy the entire area around them. Republic ships come to the aid of the Jedi and the Phylari citizens, rescuing them before the chain reaction's completion. However, Master Adu unfortunately did not make it out alive, while Nir Ali and other freedom fighters would stay behind, seemingly using their energy spheres to secretly survive the great explosion. 2 days after the Great Destruction, Cere would nervously have to formally address the Jedi Council about the incidents on Antatho. After some discussion about the failings and successes for the Jedi's involvement, Master Windu would ask Cere to kneel, commending her actions, while officially knighting her into the Jedi Order. Soon after, Cere sought out her former master, who had seemingly realized his missteps on Antatho and had begun working solely inside the walls of the Jedi Library, instead of his consistent, adventurous planetary exploration. The comic wraps up by flashing back to the Inquisitor years later. The Inquisitor uncovers a datapad held by the fallen droid N3lo. She recognizes it as Master Cordova's. In the last line of the story, the Inquisitor says, "He may not know exactly what he had discovered, but I do. Prepare to depart and head for the planet Bogano at once. Cere Junda and Cal Kestis cannot hide from me forever." As we know, this comic series ties directly into the video game Jedi Fallen Order. Our two main characters, Cere Junda and Eno Cordova, are both major players in that series. This gives light on a little bit of their backstories, mainly Cere's journey from Padawan to full Jedi Knight, but also Cordova's interest in ancient force-wielding cultures like the Zepho, who are most likely the creatures depicted in the temple's carvings that both Cordova and the second sister discover. We come to learn more about the Zepho within the Fallen Order video game. There's a lot of cool Zepho-related imagery in this comic book as well, so make sure to spend some time looking over all the artwork. As well, the ancient droids we see in the story are known as the Tomb Guardians, created by the ancient Zepho species, designed to protect sacred Zepho tombs and crypts. These droids are a recurring enemy in the Fallen Order video game. This story also gives us our first timeline look at energy spheres. These were created by the Zepho species and used to power their technology. This is what also powers the Tomb Guardians. We see these energy spheres heavily featured in the Fallen Order video game. In this comic series, Mace Windu is joined by 3 other Jedi, Master Maslow Scoff, Master Adu, and Master Luminara. Up until the time of making this video, these are the only appearances of Maslow Scoff and Adu in Star Wars canon. However, Master Luminara is featured in the Clone Wars animated series and prequel trilogy. She also makes a brief appearance in Star Wars Rebels and is heard as a Force voice at the end of Rise of Skywalker. At the end of the comic, we see the second sister name drop both Cere as well as Cal Kestis, who is the main character of Jedi Fallen Order. This leads me to believe that her involvement in this comic series takes place after Cere had rescued Cal from his confrontation with the second sister at the beginning of the Fallen Order game. She also mentions heading to the planet Bogano, which is where Cere and Cal fled to after that confrontation.
Thank God we're going to be diving into Fallen Order pretty soon, because I'm really ready to play that game. However, I have played Fallen Order before, so I'm not sure if it's this comic series that's gotten me excited, or if it's because I have a frame of reference for what I'm going to re-experience as we play Fallen Order again. While we get a lot of cool Easter eggs and things, there's still a large chunk of time between where this comic series takes place and where Fallen Order begins. I wish we got a little more concrete plot ties from this comic into Fallen Order, but this is definitely a good primer for some of the things that you're going to see, and definitely some great backstory for these characters. However, the flash forward scenes with the Inquisitor definitely ties in to the beginnings of Jedi Fallen Order. With that out of the way though, I definitely enjoy this comic series. It's some great backstory into both Cere Junda and Eno Cordova that you definitely do not get in the video game. The writing was really good, and as always with all of the Marvel comic series, the art was absolutely gorgeous. I think that there are a lot of twists and turns in the story as to who the bad guys actually were that definitely had me guessing. Sometimes though, I felt a little confused as to what was going on, but I'm blaming myself, not the team who created this story. It was really great to see Cere's journey all the way from Padawan to Jedi Knight, as well as Eno Cordova and his kind of obsession with ancient Force cultures. Her sort of brash impulsiveness is definitely what got her through Order 66. It seems like at the end of the comic, Eno was kind of remorseful for some of his actions during this comic series. I really like when we get to see full-formed Jedi still able to learn lessons throughout their adventure. I wish we got a little more of Eno Cordova and kind of his mission to rebuilding the Jedi Order that we see in Fallen Order. I honestly hope that we get more pretty soon, because I'd love to continue this journey. What went down between those two time periods? I would honestly read a whole comic series of just Eno Cordova in the Jedi library, doing research and studying, and getting to where we see him in Jedi Fallen Order. While I don't know if this prequel comic really drives somebody who's fresh to the video game to want to play it, I definitely think that this is a great standalone story and something that's really enriching to the prequel era. Now, if you're looking for more Fallen Order stories, or you're just looking for a comic where a badass Jedi does badass Jedi stuff, this is definitely a comic for you. Alright, let's talk timeline. So we've really only had one entry in this series up until this point, Dooku Jedi Lost. While there's not a ton of tie-ins to Dooku Jedi Lost, this story, in conjunction with Dooku, definitely gives us a more fleshed out look of what was going on during the prequel era. As much as I'm looking forward to new areas of Star Wars like the High Republic, I love getting a chance to flesh out areas that we don't see in the prequel films. While there might not have been a lot of tie-ins to Dooku Jedi Lost, this story was a great palate cleanser. The next thing that we're going to be diving into is Claudia Gray's Master and Apprentice, which absolutely has ties to Dooku Jedi Lost. Getting a story like this was a nice fun little adventure between two hefty pieces of media. Novels and audio dramas can be really time consuming and really brain power consuming, so having something fun like this was totally needed before diving into another one. However, I do have to say that while reading this comic series, I really did want to dive back into the Dooku-Qui-Gon relationship. It wasn't enough to necessarily take me out of the story, but I did wonder if maybe I should have moved this comic later on down the timeline. The majority of the story does take place before Phantom Menace, so it's definitely nice to be able to flesh that out before we eventually get to that film. We do follow the Inquisitor during the time of Fallen Order, so this could definitely slot nicely later on in the timeline. As a Star Wars history nerd though, I'm definitely glad that I read it in this order. I think reading this now and then experiencing Fallen Order way down the timeline will definitely help give Cere and Eno Cordova's characters some weight. It's interesting because I really wasn't expecting this when I started this project, but I definitely think we're going to start feeling the weight of characters more and more and more. We're reading stories now about characters we aren't going to meet until way later on in the timeline. I'm definitely going to have these characters in the back of my head as we go through and experience the rest of these Star Wars stories. We're about to experience the Clone Wars as well as Order 66, so I think once I meet up with her again, I'm going to be able to relate to her even more because I'm going to know those struggles that she went through. I definitely think that placing this in the timeline was a very good choice, and I think it's only going to add things to her character once we meet her again in Fallen Order. I really hope that this becomes a regular thing that we're going to experience as we move through the timeline. Meet a character early, go through a bunch of events, and then meet back up with that character, experiencing those things almost maybe as they experience them. I definitely would recommend you reading it this early in the timeline, but I totally understand people who might want to wait till a little bit later. It would definitely be a nice warm-up right before you dive into the video game Jedi Fallen Order. I definitely think that both would work well, but I'm happy where I placed it in my own viewing order. Now, just like our last video, I'm sure that I missed a bunch of stuff and connections into the Fallen Order game. I definitely rushed through the Fallen Order game the first time that I played that, so I'm not sure if I fully experienced it, maybe like I should have if I really took my time to dive in. We're going to be doing live streams of the Fallen Order game, and we are going to be going through every nook and cranny. So definitely make sure to keep an eye out for that and join us on those live streams. In the comments section though, make sure to let me know everything I missed, all of the canon connections, all of the Easter eggs, and make sure to let me know on all of the things I should be keeping an eye out for as I move through more of these Star Wars stories. If you've enjoyed this recap and review, make sure to give us a like on the video, and if you want to see more of my journey through the Star Wars canon, make sure to subscribe to the channel. As well, keep an eye out for all the recaps, reactions, and reviews of all the new Star Wars media coming out very shortly. Well, we hope you've enjoyed this video, and we hope you go check out some of our other videos. But for now, may the spires keep you, and may the Force be with you.